There comes a point in our spiritual walk where we're standing at the edge of the precipice, looking down at this vast valley and contemplating what's our next move. Because we've outgrown the standard society. There comes a point where you just evolve intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, where you just no longer fit in. You feel like an alien in another world existing in modern society, with its politics, with its nonsensical politics, with its education, with its television, its media, its superficial talk, its consumerism, its destruction of the environment, its lack of intellectualism, its lack of depth, its just vapidness, emptiness, shallowness. You just, you feel like you're going mad and you just can't take it anymore. So many of us get to that point, and it's a fearful point because we don't want to jump. We want the security, safety, and comfort, so we vacillate between two worlds and then stagnate. I saw a great documentary called Pale Male about the hawks in New York City who built a nest in the middle of New York City and raised its young there. And the young were contemplating, they came to the point where they needed to leave the nest. They needed to fly away, and you could just see the fear and trepidation as they attempted to fly and leap off this 12, 14 story foot building, which could be to death. They don't know. And you just see days and days pass where they want to do it, but they just can't. And then finally they take that leap of faith. One bird gets carried away by the wind accidentally and is forced to fly. Maybe that's what some of us need. And it just glides and sails, and you could see the exhilaration in the people that were observing this and the connection of feeling the freedom that these birds were able to experience by soaring. And yes, it is risky, but it beats the boredom, the mediocrity, and the safety, comfort, and security of spending a life cooped up in the nest. So in our spiritual walks, we come to that point, and there is so much pressure and force working against us, wanting to keep us in alignment, to obey what the mainstream, to conform. And it takes courage to say, you know what, I'm going to jump. I'm going to jump off this ledge. I'm going to fly. And very few people have that, so what we do is we vacillate between the two worlds. We feel the sense of freedom and longing and an awakening, and then we still feel like we're caught and trapped up in the world. And what you have to come to the point is you have to come to the point where you just don't care. You just no longer identify with the real world. You see it for the lunacy that it is, the madness that it is. And you're not obsessed with trying to fix everything and fix people and fix the world. You are living, you're soaring, you're jumping off the nest, and you're letting the wind and the current take you. And you're entering the slipstream of life, where it's no longer all this anguish and this force and this pressure and this mental turmoil. You can naturally just be yourself. You can break and cut the chains. And what happens is then the world wants to suck us back in. So we get caught up in politics. We get caught up in associates, hanging out with superficial people. We get caught up with dressing the right way, acting the right way, buying the things that we're supposed to buy. And really, you have to kiss all that goodbye. It has to be a watershed moment in your life where you no longer identify and get sucked in to the world as we see it. There's another great movie called They Live, and it's kind of a silly movie, but I like the premise where he has these glasses, and with viewing these glasses, he can see all the subliminal messages and really what's going on behind all the propaganda and hoopla, and the billboards and people jobs and all these things. He looks at a billboard and it says, consume, buy, and all these other subliminal messages. And most people are not open enough, wise enough to see what's really going on, to see the charade for what it is. It's a power grab to extract your life energy, to control, manipulate, and influence you, to decide your destiny, and to give you the illusion that you think you're free. And this is scary because you ask most people think they're free, as they, sit in their boxes in traffic, in their car, and sit in a cubicle, 40, 50, 60 hours a week, and, are just really struggling and to get by, and their whole world revolves around making enough money to survive. And so spiritual pursuit or awakening or educating and enlightening themselves, there's just no room or time for that. So what we want to do is disassociate from all those things which are going to trip up our spiritual walk and connect with things that are going to invigorate us, are going to illuminate, are going to enlighten, are going to give us wisdom. And people say, well, what do you do? I mean, how do you survive in the world and yet not be part of the world? Well, I think the first thing is building a network of like-minded friends, of kindred spirits. Very, very crucial. And what you'll find is your old friends and relations will slowly start slipping away, and you start building new ones. And the nice thing about finding a kindred spirit, someone who is awake, is you don't need quantity. A lot of people need a lot of friends because it's of a quantity, not quality. And when you meet, a handful of good, close friends that get it, man, that is your network of support, and that's your encouragement and that's your connection. The second thing is stillness and silence. And this is a challenge because our mind is so used to being activated and energized and entertained. And when we sit still and just reverse pray, instead of praying for I want this, I want that, just listen to our own inner instinct, our own inner compass, our own guide, whatever you want to call it. And just breathe and just listen. And once you tap into that, that is like the fuel or the wind which will lift you up, out of this nest, out of this cage, and just consistently and regularly coming back to that place, throughout the day, even if it's 60 seconds, you just listen, and it's always guiding, it's always helping, it's always illuminating. And we are so dependent on external insights. We look for everything external, that when we start going to this, it really empowers us. The next thing is nature. Connecting with nature is really, really transformational. And I think that's part of the reason why we struggle spiritually, is because we're so disconnected to nature and everything is manufactured or artificial. But when you find it, when you spend time, sitting on a lake, going to the beach and in quiet contemplation for a nice hike, it transforms your spirit. That also energizes. The other thing is simplify. I try to emphasize this as much as I can, but I think this is so crucial. There's a great video about a Canadian artist, Issa, Issa, and if you search the video, and it just talks about she laid everything on her front lawn and got rid of everything, got rid of her house, got rid of all her possessions, because she wanted the freedom to be able to create, and she wanted to channel that energy into her art. And what happens is our lives are so complicated with responsibilities, obligations, commitments, possessions, bills, financial turmoil, that it's oppressive, that our true spirit, our true nature, our true gifts can't sing. They are stifled because we're so consumed and bogged down by the material world. The other thing is a really fine art, not like movies, music, really good movies, foreign films, independent films, documentaries, and then music. Beautiful music is another thing that will really feed the soul. And the last thing, I'm running out of time, is exercise, regular exercise, and proper nutrition. 80% fruits, vegetables, nuts, raw foods that help us grow. Thank you very much for listening, and keep me posted on the progress.